Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to Rock Video Rental. I am Brandon, and with me, as always, is Caleb. And we are continuing on with Cult Movie Month, and we're going to be talking about the Blues Brothers. But before we do that, Caleb, you been watching anything interesting?
Not really. Uh, just
Uh,
the just the normal. My wife got done with all that Justified stuff, so haven't really watched anything since then. Bob's Burgers. But I can tell you what I will be watching because it starts this weekend and there will be college football.
Bow.
Bow. So I know that people probably won't want to hear me talk about that, which I won't because it's not movies, but that is definitely something that I will be watching. So there's a decent chance that I will not be adding much to my viewership in the coming months.
Rock. I don't have a whole heck of a lot. I've been lacking the last couple weeks. My work was like super busy, so I haven't really had too much spare time. And then it was like my oldest daughter's birthday, and we went to like oh man, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like Chuck E. Cheese on steroids.
Is it
There
called
was
a
like a whole bunch of
trampoline
stuff.
park?
There was a trampoline park, but there's also like go-karts and there's a arcade and laser tag and pretty
Oh,
much
okay.
everything you can think of.
Nice.
But I fell asleep like super early last night, so I didn't really watch anything. I have watched a few episodes of King of the Hill. And
Is it true
then
that they're like rebooting that?
yeah, yep.
Okay.
I'm not sure how they're gonna do it. They got a few people that were on the show that passed away. Like Brittany Murphy was the voice of Luann, she died. Tom Petty was the voice of Lucky, he died.
Well, the son
Um,
is supposed to be grown in this in the reboot,
yeah,
isn't
he's supposed to be an adult.
he? Yeah.
And then the guy who did the voice of Dale, who was one of Hank's best friends, he passed away recently. So not sure what they're gonna do. Maybe somebody else is gonna do his voice, or they're just gonna write off Dale. I don't know. But he was
Hmm.
one of the best characters, so I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
But God, I'm like in the last season of that show, I think. The show was great from like season one to about season nine.
Hmm.
And then after that, it kind of just went downhill. As much as I enjoyed Tom Petty's music, I don't enjoy his character on King of the Hill. And he like became a main character, and I was just like, eh. It's like once Lucky started becoming a main character, it kind of just went downhill.
Yeah.
Um, I also watched the latest Last Drive-In of Joe Bob Briggs. It was on Cemetery Man, which was a
Okay.
weird movie. I I couldn't decide if I wanted to watch that or if I wanted to play NCAA 25. So what I did is I had it streaming on my phone and I played NCAA. So I
Nice.
like kind of did both. Um, so yeah, I played some NCAA football and I won the national championship with Western Kentucky. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then other than those, I finished listening to the last podcast on the left's series on the Manhattan Project, which is the development of the atomic bomb and the
Hmm.
bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That was pretty interesting. I didn't know a whole bunch of stuff with that. So, yeah, that is pretty much it for me. Not very much for shows or movies. But both you and I watched The Blues Brothers for the first time all the way through. So, we probably should talk about it. The Blues Brothers, it is from 1980 and is directed by John Landis. The plot, we got Jake Blues rejoins with his brother Elwood after being released from prison, but the duo has just days to reunite their old R&B band and save the Catholic home where the two were raised, outrunning the police as they tear through Chicago. The cast, we got Dan Aykroyd as Elwood Blues, John Belushi as Jake, Cab Calloway as Curtis, John Candy as Burton Mercer, and There's quite a few other ones. Those are basically the main ones. There's so many like cameos in this movie.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that because um I don't know really enough about this movie, like if it had a lot of um hype around it or whatever, but they were able to recruit a ton of people, and it's kind of weird because I don't John Landis, are you familiar with his work? The
Yeah.
director? I mean, he
Yep.
doesn't really I'm not really seeing anything huge.
He had quite a bit of good movies, especially in the 80s. He also directed the music video to Thriller.
Okay.
Yeah, he did Animal House.
Oh, he
Like
did?
before this movie, he did Animal House was his biggest one.
Oh, why is that not showing up on this list? Oh, that's why I was looking at some other.
Yeah, and
So,
then after that, he did American Werewolf in London, which is pretty great. And Trading Places, Spies Like Us,
okay.
Three Amigos, Coming to America, Oscar.
Oh,
How did you not know that?
oh yeah, since I know everything about that movie,
I mean, it's your jam, so
that's hilarious. So I mean, I guess he had enough popularity, or like, I don't know. That's the interesting thing to me, and I don't know if you're gonna have this in facts and trivia, but like, how did they land this huge movie? I'm trying to think. I'm not well versed with celebrities from this era or before, but you know how it makes me kind of think of crap, what are some like you see them more now where they're movies that have just a ton of cameos in them.
yeah.
You used to not see that as much like in the 90s at
Hmm.
least. So I'm really kind of wondering if this was common back then for a movie to have so many. I mean, come on, we're talking about where'd my list go? Like James
James Brown,
Brown, Aretha
Ray
Franklin,
Charles.
Ray Charles, and I know there were a couple other ones that I don't know. John Lee Hooker,
Hmm.
don't really know him, but I recognized him. Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like I don't even. There's a slew. I know that list sounds really short, but I know there's more in there. Like you can tell by some of the characters in the movie and everything. So it it seems I'm kind of rambling here, but it seems kind of random to me for this movie to have so much weight with it as far as the cast goes, with all these different cameos and things like that. So I don't know, just it kind of spawned that thought process and that conversation in my head on being like, how early were movies doing cameos like this? So
Yeah, this was well, the whole Blues Brothers thing started on SNL
yeah,
in the
I do
late 70s. Yeah, and it was a pretty popular sketch, which I'm gonna admit, like maybe I just didn't get it.
mhm.
Like, because I've seen like the sketches of Belushi and Aykroyd as the Blues Brothers singing songs on SNL, and I'm like, I guess never understood why it was funny. I was like, there's just these two guys singing songs, like dancing around and uh wearing suits and fedoras with you know uh sunglasses. Like, I guess I never understood like how that was supposed to be funny.
Yeah, I really think, and I think it's going to come into play with this movie too, that it was really one of those things of the time and era.
Yeah.
Because I think that's going to be a trend through this episode where we don't really quite get it. And I don't want to come across as bashing the movie at all, but like, I
Hmm.
definitely think there's this. I mean, it's like, obviously it was before we were born, but there are plenty of movies around that time that, we can understand and can connect with. with. But I almost kind of liken it to when we're watching movies from, I don't know, like the 60s or something. And it's just, it was a completely different era, and we're clearly missing some modern day, or not modern day, but current time references or things like that. So,
Yeah, that's what I kept thinking during this movie. Like, this movie, I don't think was really made for me. Like I said, I didn't really understand what was supposed to be funny about the SNL sketch that this is based on.
hmm
And I like to put it in to compare it with another comedy like from that time. Like Caddyshack also came out in 1980, and I think Caddyshack's hilarious. So like I don't think it's, a comedy from that late 70s, early 80s time that I'm just not getting
yeah.
because like I said, I like Caddyshack and this one just didn't hit home for me as much. Um I will say like first off that the movie is way too long.
Yes. Yeah,
It's like two and a
absolutely.
half hours long.
Yeah, when I started watching it, and then I can't remember at what point it was. I stopped, paused it to do something, and then I looked at the time and I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
Like I had no idea the movie was this long. And for context again too, um neither of us have seen this movie all the way through before. This was like a first time all the way through watch.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I was not prepared for that.
Right. And then this is also one of those movies too where everybody's like, "Oh, it's one of the greatest comedies ever. It's got so many like famous scenes in it." And it does have a fair amount of famous scenes like the whole chase through the mall and everything.
hmm
And, like some of that's pretty crazy. And probably even more so at the time. And then like all the cameos and then some of the quotes like, on a mission from God. Like they
Yeah.
say that multiple times. Um that's kind of one of the biggest quotes from the movie. But yeah, this one's uh, like is it considered one of the greatest comedies, especially of the era. And I guess I don't know, it just seemed like it didn't really hit home for me as much
It
as I
is.
thought it was going to.
Yeah, no, I agree. It certainly is not a timeless comedy.
Yeah.
One, like I'll say, I feel like Caddyshack is a timeless comedy. I mean, is everybody gonna like it? No, because it can be kind of crude and everything,
Yeah.
but it was funny in the 80s and it's still funny now.
Hmm.
Blues Brothers apparently was really funny in the 80s, but and this is not to say that none of it was funny, but it was a chore to watch this movie. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, a little bit at times.
So
I kept at points where I was like falling asleep and had to, when I'd wake up, I'm like, oh man, I missed a bunch. So I had to like go back and try to watch it.
mhm. Well, yeah, I
Um,
watched it over 2 nights because I usually watch the movies that we're doing for the show after everybody else goes to bed.
yeah, same here.
So yeah, I split this over 2 nights. So
Yeah, I added the same. And I also started thinking too, like during the movie, it's like maybe it's just like John Landis's style that I'm not like meshing with.
no,
But
no,
he also did
Oscar.
Oscar.
He also did.
But then I'm looking at his filmography, and like, he also did American Werewolf in London, which I think is great. And like, it's a good horror movie, but it's also got like some comedic elements. And that was his movie like right after this.
Well, if he did Animal House, you said he did
Yeah.
Animal House, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that came out 2 years before this, and that is a timeless comedy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then even like Trading Places, I enjoy that. That's another movie he did with Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
Um, and then Spies Like Us. It's funny like how many movies that he did uh that you enjoy and didn't realize he did them.
Yeah. Oh no. I
Because
will.
he also had something to do with Clue.
Well, I
And I
will
know you like
fully.
that movie quite a bit.
Yeah, I will fully admit, and I don't know if we really talked about a whole lot. Like, first of all, I'm not the best with celebrities, names and everything. Like, I recognize faces, but not the best with names. certainly one of the worst things for me as directors. Like that was something
Yeah.
that I just never paid attention to as a kid. So it wasn't until much later, honestly, probably not a whole lot earlier than us doing this podcast, that I really kind of, outside of, I mean, your Spielberg, your big names and everything like that, but Landis isn't quite that huge of a name. I mean, I'm sure he
Yeah.
was back then, but not exactly one that you hear tossed around as much as others.
Right.
So,
Um, I think there was a couple times where I laughed. Um,
well, that's good for a
the
comedy.
idea, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like the couple times I laughed that are like popping off the top of my head, um, is that they had James Brown as a preacher. That was pretty funny.
Hmm.
Just the whole idea of that. Um, there's a part where they show Carrie Fisher outside of a building and like all of a sudden it explodes. Like their apartment building
Hmm.
explodes and it's like rubble and like bricks and everything just flying everywhere. And then Dan Aykroyd like and John Belushi both like stand up. They're still alive, but they're like all, disheveled and everything. And Aykroyd's like, um, it's almost 9 o'clock. I gotta go to work. He just like gets up and walks off like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Then he goes to work at like was he working for like a company that made hairspray or something like that?
I don't know, some kind of like bottling something or
Yeah, it was like a bunch of aerosol cans.
hmm.
Uh, and all of a sudden he just like gets up from his post and he walks into the boss's office and he tells him like he's gonna have to quit because he wants to become a priest.
Yeah.
Like that was funny to me. Like the whole interaction was so awkward. And
Hmm.
he's like, "Oh, we'll get your severance pay for you." And he's like, "Oh, God bless you." And he's like, "Thank you." And he walks off. I think the whole scene is just really strange.
One of my favorite parts, and it was just like so brief, and it's like one of those stupid comedy parts, is when they were doing the promotion for the show, and they were handing out posters, and then Ray Charles put up a poster and it was upside down. Just, I mean, it's
Oh
that
man,
honestly may have been the thing that didn't make me laugh the hardest, but I thought was maybe the funniest.
yeah, that
So,
subtle humor.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, Ray Charles is like an owner of a music store.
Hmm.
Um, and like he has a whole scene where he plays the piano and people on the outside are dancing and everything. Um, which is it's not Ray Charles's piano. Have you ever seen Ray Charles's piano?
No.
No, neither is he.
Nah, dang it. I knew you were getting to something and I was like, wait, where are we going with this? Dang it.
Oh
I should have
man.
seen that coming. No.
That whole scene was kind of funny though. It made me think of the old Ray Charles Pepsi commercials like from the late 80s, early 90s.
Yes, absolutely.
You got the right thing, baby.
Oh, well, actually, that scene, hopefully I'm not cutting you off with that, but that scene made me realize one thing. Like, first of all, I kind of felt like you and I were going to have a similar reaction to this about how long it was, how slow it was, yada yada, and not really
Yeah.
connecting with the vibe of the movie. But I was anticipating you having a worse experience with this movie because it's not exactly, but it definitely has like a musical vibe, like a
Yeah.
like a musical movie.
Yeah, I'm
And
not gonna
I'm
lie, I like fast forwarded through a lot of that stuff.
yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that.
Well, for a while there, it seemed like it was just like a collection of musical performances lately strung together.
Yeah,
Where
and
I said this movie had a lot of like wasted moments in it.
hmm,
Like I understand like having the music stuff because that's where the skit originally came from.
yeah,
It'd be like when they made Wayne's World if they would never had Wayne and Garth like doing their show in it. Like this is what they're known for. Like it makes sense. But it was just like, oh, we're trying to get our band together, and it's like we go from one place to another, but there's a lot of sitting down and talking about what we're going to do.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think if we were a little bit more well versed with the celebrities who made appearances, and if we were more into the music. Now I must say, like, I do enjoy the music to an extent, but
yeah,
I would personally, I would not be motivated to watch this movie because of the music,
right.
if that makes sense. So,
Yeah, definitely. I hear you. Um, another scene that made me laugh is there's randomly out of nowhere, there's a group of Nazis, and like they're having some kind of rally, and like people are screaming at them and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" And the cop tells them, "He's like, oh, there's a bunch of Nazis up on the bridge, like the Nazi party." And Belushi's like, "Ugh, Illinois Nazis. I hate Illinois Nazis." And then he just like almost run him over, and all the Nazis have to dive off into the water off the
mhm.
bridge. That was kind of funny.
Well, the interesting thing apart about that, and there wasn't a lot, and so I'm not saying necessarily that would have saved a lot of time, but that could have completely been taken out.
Yeah,
There was no, unless I'm missing a reference, like maybe there was somebody important in there. Like I know Henry Gibson was the main head Nazi guy,
yeah,
and he's a recognizable actor,
that guy.
that guy kind of thing. Maybe it was more popular back then in the 80s, 70s and the 80s, but it did not add anything to the movie
No.
because there was the scene with them on the bridge. There was a scene where they went to go try to find the Blues Brothers, and they went to uh red herring location,
Hmm.
and then they were a part of the final chase. And so I guess maybe altogether you could have maybe saved something like maybe 15 minutes or something if you eliminate
Yeah,
all that.
yeah.
So,
Which
which
would have
would,
made it about 2 hours long.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, just in my notes ahead, maybe this movie is just not made for me.
yeah.
Which sounds like it wasn't really made for you either.
No,
I was happy to see John Candy was in this. I guess I didn't realize John Candy was in this, and
well,
he's always a welcome
but he didn't do anything.
presence in anything.
They didn't even use him.
No.
That was really disappointing.
Yeah, but I mean, at that time, he wasn't really John Candy.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
more like trying to get, his career started kind of deal.
sure. But that it
Yeah.
got my hopes up when he showed up.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm trying to think of like what movie was it that really like kicked off John Candy's like career.
Hmm.
This is one of the first ones, I think. This is one of the earlier roles. Stripes the next year
Oh, okay.
was a bigger one for him. And then he was in National Lampoon's Vacation in '83.
Yeah, probably by that, then
Yeah, and
he
then
would.
Splash that he did with Tom Hanks. That was in '84. So it's probably closer to the mid '80s when his career like really took off and became like a leading guy.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
then Summer Rental and
yeah.
Little Shop Horrors, Spaceballs. Yep.
Yup. He had a big line of movies there. Oh man, things I guess this does good. Has it I would say that the musical moments in it are pretty good. Like you've said that you like the music in it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say like the songs they picked and everything, those are good. I like the scene where, Ray Charles is singing. Um, some of the performances and stuff they did in it were pretty fun. I thought the dinner scene that they had in a fancy restaurant with the snobby people. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was one of the more entertaining parts.
I there's no way you're gonna get this reference, but anybody who's like a horror fan might get it. Uh, in that scene, there's that family that's like next to them, and the guy's complaining that like they stink. And they like show his youngest daughter, and his youngest daughter is one of the evil kids from the movie Bloody Birthday.
Okay.
Yeah, she was in that. She was also in Hospital Massacre, aka X-Ray. That's another slasher movie. But yeah, she's very just very
Demure. No, I'm
noticeable
just
look, I
kidding.
guess, different looking, like with the the long blonde hair, the freckles, and the dark eyebrows. Like as soon as I saw her, I'm like, oh god, it's that girl from Bloody Birthday, which is an interesting movie. I might have to add that to the list of like awesomely bad sometime
Nice.
because it's like young kids killing people.
Rock.
But yeah, it's strange, strange movie. But,
Yeah,
um,
one of my favorite things, just with the conversation, the music
mhm,
was they did a decent job with the finale, like concert thing. It
yeah,
was they did a good job. Um they had a decent like climax. The music was good. But then also like the end of the movie just drug out forever too.
yeah.
So,
There's a lot of scenes that kind of dragged on forever when they first go to the church
mhm.
and they're talking like to the oh, they called her the penguin.
Yeah.
Like that seems to kind of like go on for a little too long. It's just this movie, like I said, it could have been trimmed down a little bit,
Yeah.
but maybe that was a product of its time as well. But I think movies now even go on for too long.
Mhm.
I think that's why like you know mostly 80s and 90s movies resonate with me more because they're so compact, especially comedies. Like comedies and slasher movies, like there's never a reason why one has to be longer than an hour and a half to me.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. There are certain movies that I can appreciate that are longer, but
Yeah,
it is because I think the good spot for movies is between an hour and a half and 2 hours. Once
yeah.
you get past 2 hours, you're like you really got to be you know, making an excellent movie. Like
It's
what
got to be like a drama that a lot
well
of things
saving
happen in it to make it more like interesting to cover that long runtime, like Forrest Gump.
Saving
Forrest Gump's
Private
a longer
Ryan too,
movie.
right?
Yeah, and Saving Private Ryan, like a fair amount of things happen. They cut, they might literally or figuratively cover a lot of ground,
Mhm.
and you need that longer runtime. Whereas something like this, I feel like it should have been, 2 hours or less, and instead it was like, what, 2 hours 15, 2 hour 20 minutes, something like that.
Oh man, I thought it was like 2.5 hours
It might have been 2.5.
with the credits. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But oh man, anything else you want me to get into trivia? Got a little bit of
Um,
trivia.
just a couple things before jumping into trivia. Like the acting was okay.
Hmm.
We already talked about the music. The filming was good.
Yeah.
I mean, um, it wasn't anything of a masterpiece, but definitely wasn't mediocre. So, but yeah, then uh, I just kind of wanted to mention the acting real quick, where it, it it was fine. It was decent. There wasn't really any great performances. Honestly, it was kind of odd because at the beginning I felt like um Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, it was awkward.
Yeah.
I don't know really how else to explain it. Like it got better, but at the beginning it almost felt like they filmed this movie in sequence,
Hmm.
and at the beginning they were just super rough. and raw and not in a groove. So
Yeah.
wouldn't really put it down as a great thing with this movie, but also wouldn't say it was horrible. So
Belushi was probably high off his ass the whole time they made this movie.
that is a fair point.
Uh, well, trivia. Um, so Carrie Fisher became engaged to Dan Aykroyd during the shoot, shortly after he saved her life from choking by applying the Heimlich maneuver to her.
I did not know that at all.
Yeah, me either. I did not know those two were engaged. So John Belushi disappeared while filming one of his night scenes. Dan Aykroyd looked around and saw a single house with its lights on. He went to the house and was prepared to like identify himself, the movie, and what they're looking for, that they're looking for Belushi. Before he could, the homeowner looked at him and smiled and said, "You're here for John Belushi, aren't you?" And the homeowner told him Belushi had entered their house and asked if he could have a glass of milk and a sandwich, and then he crashed on their couch.
Oh my gosh.
Situations like that prompted Aykroyd to affectionately dub Belushi as America's guest. Some performers were not used to like the lip syncing and pre-recorded songs, which is standard procedure for movie musicals. James Brown ended up singing his number live with a recorded backing. The rest of his choir was lip syncing. John Lee Hooker's performance of Boom 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 was recorded live at Chicago's Maxwell Street Market. Aretha Franklin's performance was cut together from many, many takes, using parts where her lip syncing um, was actually in sync.
Hmm.
So, a world record of 103 cars were wrecked during the filming of this. The movie The Junkman in 1982 broke the record 2 years later, wrecking 150 cars and a plane. That record held for 2 decades until over 300 cars were wrecked during the filming of Matrix Reloaded in 2003.
Hmm.
According to John Landis, John Belushi sprained his back during falling down the stairs um, in the desk from the Penguin's office.
Wait, he did the fall?
Yeah,
Oh, geez.
he was in a back brace and on painkillers for the rest of the filming.
I thought it was a stunt double because
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I actually was thinking about that when it happened, where I was just like, holy crap, that would be difficult to pull off.
Yeah,
And so I am really surprised that he did that.
yeah. I mean, Belushi was kind of known for like his physical comedy, but yeah. The film is considered to be a box office bomb until it became a blockbuster in overseas markets. In 2020, the film is selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The director, John Landis, said, "Having the Blues Brothers chosen to be included in the National Film Registry is both a great honor and a delightful surprise. The film is a result of Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi's genuine passion for rhythm and blues and our mutual love for these great African American artists in the city of Chicago."
Hmm.
And the last thing I got is this movie had a $27 million budget and it made 115 in the box office.
All right. So
So, grades, IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, what do you think they are?
IMDb 8.
7.9,
Ooh, so close. Rotten Tomato Critic 85.
72,
Okay. Rotten Tomato Audience 89.
92.
All right. And just to hand out a bunch of fives on our end, right?
Exactly. I guess I will go first this time. So I think you went first last week with Deadly Prey. Um, I had a hard time with this movie. I appreciate like what it did and what it means to like um comedies of that time. And you know what it means for like Saturday Night Live movies. You know, if it wasn't for the success of this movie, there probably would be no Wayne's World.
Mm,
And Wayne's World is one of my favorite movies. So I have to have some appreciation for this, I guess. I ended up giving it a 3.5. Like it had some moments that made me laugh. Um, I enjoyed the music. It's done well. I just enjoy other John Landis movies more and the other Dan Aykroyd movies more.
like Oscar.
Oh yeah, exactly. Greatest movie of all time.
Best John Landis movie ever.
The Oscar goes to Oscar. Greatest comedic performance of our modern era goes to Sylvester Stallone.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. All right, what do you say?
Well, so I it's not a bad movie.
No.
It is stuck in a time capsule, I would kind of say.
Hmm.
Where like the further you get away from the 80s, the more difficult it will be, I believe, for anyone to connect with this movie. However, it does have some glaring issues. I mean, we already touched on it. Too long and so many scenes were drawn out more than they needed to be. Also, I'm sure that if we really dug into it, there would be more things that could have just completely been eliminated.
Hmm.
So I actually, because again, it's not a bad movie. Like once you get down to 2.5, you're getting into the bad area. I was stuck between a 3 and a 3.5. Um, I do feel like that it has some merit, the whole thing about you said, the recognition the film's got has gotten, how big it was for its time and everything. And so I know if I was straight up judging this movie, I would give it a 3 out of 5. Given and knowing that I am missing some context and like not um missing some things that should be appreciated, maybe I guess I would say. I'm comfortable with giving it a 3.5 out of 5. I know that's kind of weird because there are plenty of movies that we've probably seen that you could have applied that to,
Hmm.
but we just didn't really know better. But
Yeah.
it is kind of one of those things where this I think you said it best, where it's just like what it did for Saturday Night Live, what it did for some actors' careers, how it's been recognized in the film industry and all that. So I feel like 3 out of 5 doesn't quite do it justice. So I think 3.5 is really good to land.
Rock. Yeah, we're on the same page there. So we're gonna be wrapping up the cult movie month next week. We're going to be talking about a movie that I've seen a fair amount of times and a movie that I enjoy more than this, I'll say. We're going to be talking about Scarface, which, how many Pacino movies have we done? Godfather, and that's it?
It's possible.
Yeah, I think that might be,
Yeah,
yeah,
might have to check.
the second one. But,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a movie that is greatly loved and popped up so many times on the classic MTV Cribs. It seemed like every time a rapper was on MTV Cribs, like they'd always have like a poster of
What's your favorite movie? Oh,
Scarface.
Scarface.
Yeah.
Scarface.
Or like Scarface playing in the background. It got to the point where it was like cliche.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. It's been a couple years since I've seen it, so it'd be fun to go back and watch it. If you guys are liking the show, please subscribe and share. Follow us on social media. We're on it pretty much every platform. You can check out our YouTube and our TikTok for some more content. And come by next time. We're going to be talking about Scarface. And until then, as always, be kind and rewind.